It is Monday. RawMikeRichards.com broadcasting live from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto, 234 King Street East, out of the Pacific Junction Hotel. Well, coming up today, a very special day for us. It is World Purple Day. Thus, this jersey. Can you guess the team? Sorry, Dave. Dave immediately is out on that. No longer wants to guess. If you watch Serie A, you might guess this. Why are we wearing purple? And of course, representation of our great relationship with Epilepsy Canada. And so text the word CURE to 30333. That's 30333 to donate either $10, $20, or $25 to Epilepsy Canada. You'll see that behind Dave for the entire show. You can throw it up there again. Once again,
we have the other logo too,
yeah.
Don't we? Right? Just okay.
World.
I'm blocking half of it, so.
Oh, you're a blocker, Dave.
I'm a blocker.
You've always said that about yourself.
It's like blocking tight end, but much smaller.
I'm glad that's the example you used as someone who blocks. So once again,
not the C block.
That would also be World Purple Day when you think about it.
That's true.
Yeah. See how we did that?
Good
See what
point.
I did there?
Yeah. Connect the dots, folks.
Very good. Speaking of connecting the dots, well, if you had Kansas beating Duke, I mean, brackets are just burning on fire right now.
Yep.
It was tough for Duke fans. Sorry, Grayson Allen. Guess you can trip people out of your way on this one. And he had the shot to win it too, Dave. He did. He had it. Ooh, tough in Duke land. But it is what makes the tournament great. You're going to see Villanova, Kansas, huge matchup. And then on the other side, Michigan, Loyola, Chicago. It is a story that continues to be like just awesome. Dave mentioned on Friday about Sister Jean, who has become quite a celebrity. She's in a wheelchair, but it's only because during the year she had some sort of hip issue. She's not like in a wheel. Normally she just walk around. She is a ball of fire.
She is 98 years old too. It's an awesome story.
I didn't think she was 98.
Yeah, that's what the story says. I know.
That's incredible. How she
doesn't look like it.
No,
though,
not
you know
even
what I
close.
mean?
That's why I wasn't thinking that age at all. And so we're just going to show a clip courtesy, once again, property, I'm sure, of NCAA, our friends at ESPN. But she's become quite a celebrity, including, of course, talking about she's sorry that she has busted some of the brackets. And then the team, when they won, she had Loyola going out in the Sweet 16. So the players were coming up to her and saying, geez, we're really sorry that we busted your bracket. But Sister Jean says it's okay.
I want to thank everybody who had part of this. And I keep saying, be careful, San Antonio. The Ramblers are on their way. And I hope we continue. But we always do one game at a time. And so it'll be the next. We know what we want to do next. And the young man said to me the other day, Sister Jean, we broke your bracket. And I said, keep breaking it. That's okay with me. I did have a second bracket, bringing them to the top. So I called it my Cinderella dream bracket. So we'll see how far we go. But all of you have been very conscientious about your jobs, doing a good job, giving great publicity to us. And I'm so happy for Loyola, for my congregation, for the city of Chicago, and for the nation. We need something to boost us, and I think this is what is doing it, because we are almost a Cinderella.
That is one of the great stories. And, typical of a person with that kind of faith talking about, but you guys are doing a good job reporting it, and I'm happy for the city, and I'm happy for my congregation, and we actually need maybe, and she's talking specifically about the United States, a good story, as opposed to, Dave, the news, U.S. news now.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
I know. Did
you see the stormy?
Daniels, no, I was watching the Jet game yesterday. Yeah. We have it taped because there's also a really good piece on a positive. Antetokounmpo's on 60 Minutes as well.
But it's not tied in with...
No. Because yesterday was, for Catholics like myself, it was Palm Sunday. For Greek Orthodox, it was Greek Independence Day in the world. So
So are there fireworks that go off or something?
I don't know. I think it's just a day where Greece reminds everybody that's around them that how they invented everything and how they're the best at everything and how they're the first ones to walk out of the Olympic Games and ice cream was invented in Greece and
I have these
cars were made there first. Yeah, I think you know where I'm going.
The first ice cream cone was invented by Nick Gugelbergabablers.
Exactly.
Was not.
Exactly.
It was too. And Johnny and Tommy.
Trust me, I've had these.
Invented the alphabet. Well, no, it's okay. We get it. We get it.
Yeah, that's all you have to say.
And we love our Greek families, right, Dave? Oh,
yeah. You're part of it.
Yes, I definitely am. Other stories we want to hit upon. Boy, the Raptors. Not that I'm panicking.
The Clippers aren't supposed to come to the Air Canada Center and whip them.
In Brooklyn, they escaped Brooklyn.
But I will say this. And you'll like this. In game, fourth quarter, got the Raptors money line at a 2:30.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Bet. In game. It's the way to do. SportsInteraction.com.
By the way, Greeks invented basketball.
And betting.
No, betting I'd believe.
Yeah, that's true. There's too many Greek nicknames. There's even Greek websites that are still out there.
Exactly. The Raptors, when their second unit doesn't play like the second unit that we've seen, they get themselves into trouble because you got to get stops. And for the big lead that they have, at one point, I think the game started off. I looked over and it was like 27-4 or 27-9? I don't know what it was. And I thought, good. They've obviously got it together and going to wipe these people out. These people happen to be the Clippers. And the third quarter was disastrous for the Raptors, and that was just that to me is it's a little unnerving, I suppose, and property of the National Basketball Association and their NBA broadband properties. Here is what amounts to be the giant mudslide that were the Raptors.
He is what he is my point.
Well, and JV's 25.
Yeah, that's kind of there's still room.
And Wesley Johnson
in there, Matt.
Lowry earlier this year donated, and that's the first lead for
their level of physicality, and they are locking down DeMar DeRozan.
Push shot, and it's good for Teodoro. Raptors led 27-9.
Yeah, there you go, 27-9.
Now down by 2. Johnson makes it a 5-point game.
Exactly where they are right now. They fought that back from an 18-point deficit, and they have the lead because of their
18-point deficit in this. They go on, yeah. Talk about highlights that don't mean anything. Hey, there's a 3. Yeah. But I don't know. Does this concern you at all?
You know what? Have the blip right now rather than in 2 weeks. I hope they can kind of fix this. It's a modified slump. It's not really like they haven't lost 6 in a row or they haven't lost one of their star players like Golden State with Steph Curry, who, by the way, isn't expected back until the second round of the playoffs. So careful with that bet.
Yeah, I'd be very careful about that.
Yeah, and considering Klay Thompson still is having some shooting problems with the hand, Kevin Durant's nursing a little bit of a bump and bruise. So I'm just saying they're very, very vulnerable right now as far as points are concerned. Utah yesterday, 6-point favorites against Golden State.
I saw that.
Where have you ever seen that?
I looked at it and said, that can't be. And I said, well, you know what? That is right.
Yeah. It's because of that. So quickly before we get to our guest too, NHL report, Jets make the playoffs, and they're going all the way. Okay, Mike, back to you.
I heard the first part of that this morning. I didn't realize there was the Kreskin part that said they were going to go all the way. You know what? And just before we get to our good friends, so Jay Barker's going to come in. The tournament we did last year, which is why we fell in love with all those people.
And Diamond Gary Collins. Don't forget him.
Was it Diamond Gary Collins?
Diamond Gary Collins, yeah.
And not the Gary Collins that had that talk show for a while
No.
Yeah, but I like that Gary Collins, too. I think if your name is Gary, you're probably a good guy.
I know
I've never met a bad Gary.
I've never met a bad Gary either. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Okay.
And it's an underrated name. You don't hear too many babies named Gary these days.
I saw an old shootout with Gary Unger.
Okay, yeah, 77.
I forgot how.
Was he a St. Louis Blue?
Yes, he absolutely.
There you go.
I
mean, there's a couple different teams, so I'm just predicting.
But that's how I think.
Yeah.
The blonde hair and the whole. Find me a picture of David Lee Roth, by the way. Just find me a picture of David Lee Roth. We got to do a little rock before. Dave, I found this cool thing, and I don't know if you've ever seen these things before, because we got to rock out a little bit, right?
Where the hell did this? come
I just
from?
can't because I'm a Diamond Dave fan, as you are too.
Who is it?
Yeah,
that's why we like Diamond Gary.
Yeah, but find me one at the time. Don't find me one of the new ones with the short hair. No short hair, Dave.
No.
We need There
we go. Yes,
that's
yes.
Diamond Dave. Okay.
This is like I Ain't Got Nobody. That song.
When Running with the Devil comes out,
Yes.
Van Halen 1. Now, actually, you know what? When we play this, actually, there is a picture of Dave, isn't there? So we probably don't know. Just throw that picture out. Here's how I remember Diamond Dave. Hey, wow. Wow. That's Diamond.
That's good.
That is Diamond. No, okay.
That's better than my Ric Flairs.
Well, get ready for
And
this.
I do good Ric Flairs.
Running with the Devil, they have isolated the sound of the track. So it's dry. So when they say that in the business, that means there's no effects on this. So there's no reverb. You're not going to hear any of the music. It is the track that they mix, and it is David Lee Roth, like literally singing in this microphone right now, Running with the Devil. I don't know how they got this, and I know that they're out there. I know you can see them, you can find them, but this is pretty cool. So just before we get a little more serious, this is the opposite of serious because it's Diamond Dave. Get a load of what it sounds like, the actual recording of Running with the Devil, dry track.
Oh! Oh, yes! Yeah!
Oh, that's the best. Here it comes. Boom, boom.
I live my life like there's no tomorrow, and all I've got I had to steal. Least I don't need to beg or borrow. Yes, I'm living at a pace that kills. Ooh, yeah.
It's a great song.
Oh my God, orgasm. Oh. I'm orgasming.
That's great.
I'll
Isn't
tell you all about it.
How do you not love that?
You know what? Decent voice for a rock artist.
Well, there's really no effects on that. That was the dry voice. Incredible. We should find one of these every once in a while.
Yep.
I have the.
And if David Lee Roth's ever in the brick hockey tournament, we're finding that video too.
That's
I'm
right.
just saying.
The what is the
Talk to me.
Under Pressure.
Yep.
Bowie
And Mercury.
Mercury. That is also on the internet too, and it is
really?
You know,
Yeah,
I think it was
yeah.
just really really cool because Freddie. Oh. Okay, I'm pretty sure I know what was Dave was doing there, and
Yeah.
the Greeks also invented rock and roll, by the way.
And first sang Under Pressure
And
before it was sang.
yeah. We had that 2 years before anyone else. Okay, all right. Under Pressure is yours. Just looking at the economy. Yeah, you're.
That's what I always say to them.
Yeah, you're under pressure. Yeah. We can't go home now.
You're in my mind.
Oh boy, Irene, these are just jokes. Very funny jokes.
I always have these arguments with my brother-in-law. Yeah.
We have supported Epilepsy Canada from the moment we met both Jay and his story of the difficulty you have. It's the beautiful young kid and epilepsy and what they go through.
Aiden's Drive, the
Aiden's
golf
Drive.
tournament that we do. Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about that today too. But just, I couldn't imagine being in Jay's shoes sometimes when he talks about what they go through with a boy who has epilepsy. Gary Collins is coming on as well. He is the president of Epilepsy Canada. So we'll talk about World Purple Day, as we've mentioned beforehand. You can text word CURE to 30333 to donate either $10, $20, or $25 to Epilepsy Canada. Purple is their color. Thus, by the way, this jersey from Serie A, Fiorentina. Fiorentina, which means Florence. You might know it as Florence.
Yes, I do know that.
Yes.
You know what?
Greeks invented Florence 2 years. We came up with the name 2 years before.
They probably did.
But we go with Athens instead.
And Coach Frank, listening to us, watching us on the dedicated YouTube screen, asking me why I'm not wearing purple. There is clearly purple.
It's a shade. Yes.
Yeah, it's just your $3 monitor can't see it, so I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Very painful.
That's okay.
These stories that they'll share, but how about Brett Hundley? So the only thing that we really know him for is what was nearly a disastrous stay with the Green Bay Packers. But the story that he has to tell, you're going to probably change your mind a little bit about this man when he talks about his sister. This, once again, because of World Purple Day and our support of Epilepsy Canada, but this story told by Brett Hundley, you may not have some dry eyes after this, because this is an emotional tale about his sister who has epilepsy.
Sometimes it's hard to go back and relive memories that you don't try to relive. When she first had her first seizure, we were getting ready for school, 11 years old, and I was 10. You know, you always remember the first boom you hear. We had no idea what was going on, and then you go around the corner and she's in a seizure, a grandma seizure. I had no idea what epilepsy was, what a seizure was. All I could do was pray, because that's all I knew how to do at that point. You feel helpless. When you have a seizure, you don't know how you're gonna fall, you don't know where you're gonna be at, or what your body is gonna do. Her shoulders have been dislocated over 100 times. Every time she'd have a seizure, she would essentially dislocate her shoulder, right or left, or both. You know, having to be carted away every single time to have her shoulder back in place. You're spending holidays at the hospital, you're spending days, hours at a time at the hospital. Christmas, Thanksgiving, you could probably name any holiday and we've been in the hospital. You know, to see her go from a major athlete to having to start taking tons of medication, 8, 9, she takes 10 a day, still to this day, 10. To see how that interacts with your body and with your mind, you know, it's not easy. Kids used to laugh. Used to laugh at her. Some people just don't know. She's went through more than I could ever imagine. One of the strongest people I've ever seen. You know, it's not gonna stop her. It didn't. And, you know, her story is a great story to be told. She hasn't had a seizure in a long time. So it's a lot easier to go about your daily lives, not worrying about a phone call you're gonna get. It's nice to be able to just call her and be like, hey, Paris, what's up? You know, she's flourishing. Now raising Elijah, being a mom. She's enjoying life, seizure-free. And, you know, she's really found her way. For me, being blessed to play at Lambeau Field, I have an opportunity to talk to and touch many lives. I understand the struggles that you're going through, the siblings, everybody, the loved ones who have to watch this stuff. Sometimes they think they're alone in this fight. I'm able to tell them, like, I understand. I've witnessed it from my sister. And at the end of the day, I can tell them, this won't stop you. It's just there's an obstacle now, and you just gotta get over it.
You ready? What's up?
I can officially say I'm an ambassador to Athletes versus Epilepsy. There's a lot that I want to do to be able to use my platform to speak to others, to be able to get the word out. This is epilepsy. Like, this is something that we're fighting for.
That is just an unbelievable story. It was Brett Hundley at that time talking about his sister. Today it is a World Purple Day, and of course our good friends from Epilepsy Canada, who we met upon Jay contacting us and going out to a golf tournament in the name of his son, who fights epilepsy on literally a minute-by-minute basis. And I think we start to, Dave and I understand, and as parents, it's sometimes really, really hard to hear what Jay and his family go through. You know, I guess I also was naive to the fact that in order for them to sometimes track what the disease actually does, they need to induce seizures. So therefore, the things that are triggering mechanisms like strobe lights or lack of sleep, all these things that would trigger, they do it on purpose so they can survey what goes on during a seizure. And when you look at Aiden, who's just the cutest little kid, I could not imagine. It is a little heartbreaking, but this also is another example of those who refuse to quit, those who continue to fight, and that's why we're a part of Epilepsy Canada. It's been probably, I think, it doesn't matter, Dave, what we have done. This is the most significant thing, I think, in our lives that we've done so far, and we need to do so much more for it. So we're appreciative that you're watching us here today, that Jay and Gary are coming in. Once again, World Purple Day. Text the word CURE to 30333 to donate either $10, $20, or $25 to Epilepsy Canada. And now we go to our good friend, Jay Barker. Jay, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having
Oh, let me just do that. Okay.
Am I on now?
Yeah, you're on now.
All right.
It's
Thanks
very
for
sophisticated.
having me.
So sophisticated here. And, of course, Gary, just make sure you're nice and close to that thing. The president of Epilepsy Canada.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
Okay, is that thing? Oh, you might have to smack the mic. Or how does that work there, roast beef? Is it this way? Try it again.
That works.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Mike. Thanks very
There
much.
we go.
for having
There we go.
This is the first time we've actually had 4 microphones going.
Yeah, we don't usually do this, guys. This
Yeah.
is a special occasion, but you
Except
guys
when
are definitely worth it.
except when the cheerleaders came in, but somehow we didn't really care about the microphones.
No, we didn't. Was there a microphone?
Is this on?
Yeah, isn't that? Yeah, they're going. That's not how we talked. Guys, today is World Purple Day, and Jay, I remember you were texting whoever ran like the CN Tower, and they'd put some colors up for something. You say, hey, today I guess was it November? Was it Epilepsy Month or something? You said, well, how about purple for the CN Tower?
Yeah, that was actually Toronto Pearson, the
Oh.
tower that they have at the
Yep.
airport, and having the connection at the airport with my job. I had asked them because they put different colors up for different events or things that were going on.
Makes
I
sense,
said,
yeah.
March Epilepsy Awareness Month. Why not on March 26th, Purple Day? You put that up, so we'll see if they do that tonight.
Because
Make sure you take a picture of it and tweet it out too.
Absolutely,
So.
absolutely.
when I first met you, Jay, I think you told me you were the president of Air Canada or you invented Air Canada.
Close.
And I believe none
Very
of those things are
close.
true, actually.
I don't even know if you listen to me when I talk, but I'm a director of the hub advancement, whatever that means, at Toronto Airport, far from the president.
Well, the reason that you're here today on World Purple Day, I know a lot of people follow, like when Dave and I would retweet about some of the issues that Aiden goes through. And Gary, I think that, and again, the more I look at things and research them, and I'm always stunned by, it seemingly every month something I find out about Epilepsy Canada. But when you think of all the other agencies and foundations, it's when they got started, 1966, that's it?
Yes, a long time ago. So, but that's
Well, not that long. Really, 66 is not that old.
51 years. So, which is great. So we've got a history with our organization, and our organization has been dedicated to raising monies for research. Our objective is to find a cure someday. That's our objective.
Because people, ask me sometimes, which is, I understand they'll see it on when Dave and I tweet about stuff. But when they ask about a cure, well, currently as we stand right now, there is no cure.
There is no cure today, and that's our goal. So as Jay knows, there are 3 dimensions within epilepsy. 70% of us, and I'll say us because I'm a sufferer. I was diagnosed when I was 30 years old, and so I'm a fortunate one. I'm someone whose seizures are controlled using medication, and I'm very, very lucky in that way. 30%, though, of people diagnosed with epilepsy, their seizures are not controlled by medication, and Jay's son Aiden is in that category. Mm-hmm. And yet approximately 2% of those with epilepsy will die. They'll die from SUDEP, sudden unexplained death from epilepsy, and that's even more tragic. And this year, 9,000 families will wake up and find a new word, SUDEP, not understanding that a seizure could cause death. So many people don't know that that's the tragedy, ultimately the tragedy. For me, people see me and they think I look normal, and I am almost normal. But I live, and I'm able to live with my condition. I had to change my lifestyle, but I'm okay. But people like Aiden, and Aiden is a case really, is significant for me. And then I watch Jay and his wife and how they manage themselves and their family. It's not just the child living with epilepsy, it's the parents that have to manage that and what they have to go through. And that's significant. Well, it changes their life as well as their child's life.
When we talk about research and we welcome everybody to text the number and give to Epilepsy Canada, how close is the research right now? Is there any update on what they're working on exactly, or how they're trying to attain the ultimate goal? These sort of things just don't happen in a day, in a week, in a year, or anything like that. But could you give us any kind of update on how everything is progressing in the right manner?
Sure. There are some great things happening, and even locally in Toronto with some great research. But there's seizure surgery, mm-hmm. and technology is making that easier. So if the physician can find the focal point of where the seizure begins, then they can go in and remove that from the brain. And we've seen a lot of success in seizure surgery. And then we need new technologies to really pinpoint where that seizure is starting from. And then in addition to that, there's research happening in Toronto around early detection. And then if you can detect it, then can you then eradicate it by sending electrical current to that spot? And those are happening today in Toronto at the Toronto Western Hospital through Dr. Peter Carlin, who's one of our key researchers. And then there's research being done at McGill and then University of Montreal. Some outstanding
That's good.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, because when Mike and I did this golf tournament, and arguably it was probably one of the greatest things we did last year as a group here, the number one thing I had friends, and I'll ask both of you about this. The number one thing I had friends asking me is, how do you find out if you have epilepsy, or what were the warning signs, or are there warning signs, or is there a test? Is there, there was, because there is pure ignorance of not knowing. You don't know how this happens or why it happens. Is there anything you could do to answer those sort of questions for people that I've been asking, and I didn't have the answer to it.
Yeah.
Can I answer that first? Sure. Well, let's use myself as a case study. I had seizures for 10 years before it was finally diagnosed. When I was 20 years old, I was sitting in my girlfriend's kitchen. We were having breakfast in the morning. Everyone left after breakfast to go do whatever they're doing. I was staying at the table. I was reading the newspaper, and suddenly I'm on the floor. I wake up, and here I am on the floor. I don't know how long I've been there. Yeah. People come back to the kitchen, so everyone thought I fainted. Almost periodically, every 2 years, I'd have another event. And I had an aura. I would have a visual dream, a deja vu dream. I knew something was happening, and then I would have a seizure. But because no one saw
Before you had the seizure, you went through this process of having this thought?
Yes, I had a deja vu dream.
Wow.
Dream sequence. So, and most people have some sort of aura prior to. And I had about 30 or 40 seconds to get to the floor and prepare myself. So it wasn't until I was 30 and I came back from a trip to Dallas, and I was attending a business meeting in the morning, that I actually fell and hit my head on the desk, and then the staff took me to the hospital, Mount Sinai. I had 2 more seizures on the way down to the hospital, and they were witnessed by someone. And that was when it was finally detected. But 10 years I had had...
That's a long time, Gary.
Yes, it was. And so finally diagnosed, and then was given medication, and now I'm seizure-free.
Is that something you hid? Do people with epilepsy hide things?
Well, that's a good question, Mike. And I'm going to say yes. Yeah. When I was diagnosed, I didn't tell anyone. I told other than my immediate family. I was very ambitious, a young man, wanted to go places in my career, and so therefore I didn't want anybody to know I had limitations. So it wasn't until 25 years later, when I finally sent a note to Epilepsy Canada saying I wanted to help, did I actually come out and tell people I was epileptic.
Now, for you, Jay, and it's always hard to hear your story at times, just because it affects Dave and I and anyone who would hear it. But if you have a child at some point with all the things that he went through, like from the get-go, I mean, from birth there were some issues. Your story is heavy in essence off the top. But you've not lived your life that way. You and your wife and your kids have decided that you'll be fighters about it, because he is a tough little guy. I mean, for what he goes through. So just, for those who are just joining us or who have just started following Raw Mike Richards, why don't you explain from, I guess, literally infancy, what has happened with Jay?
Aiden.
Or sorry, Aiden.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
So we noticed that, well, more so my wife. I mean, kudos to my wife. As a father, you're always in denial about something. No, my child's normal. Kids develop at different rates. My wife, and like I said, kudos to her, pushed the medical community to say, no, our son is not meeting the milestones when you're supposed to roll over, when you're supposed to sit up, when you're supposed to crawl. He wasn't meeting those milestones. And after lots of testing and MRIs, it was discovered that he was actually born with brain damage. Now, if there's a connection to the epilepsy, I really don't know, but through multiple tests, we've also found out he is autistic. And then on May 28th of 2015, when he was 2, I actually found him in his crib having a major seizure. And at that time, I had absolutely no idea what was going on. So knowing previously that he was born with brain damage, when I picked him up, his whole body went limp, and I immediately thought the worst. I started to panic. I had my cell phone right on my hip, and I was scrambling trying to find a phone. Like, you just lose it, you don't know what's going on. And we had paramedics there, thank God, really, really quickly. And they had told us that it was a seizure. And even then, you don't think, okay, is this epilepsy? But after being at the hospital for a couple of days and having EEGs done and several blood tests and testing, we met with neurologists at McMaster Children's Hospital in Hamilton, and they had told us that our son was diagnosed with epilepsy. And even then, it's like, okay, in my whole life, I've known one person who has epilepsy, so
Sure.
you just think it's associated to seizures. So immediately, I jumped to the internet and I came across Epilepsy Canada's page, because this little boy, he's sweet, but he's a tough little guy, and he's a fighter. And I mean, I gotta now fight for him. I'm his father. I got to do everything I can. So I got in contact with Gary here, and we met, and we put together Aiden's Drive to End Epilepsy, because there isn't anything I wouldn't do other than try and raise funds to find a cure. That little man means everything to me, and that's what I got to do. I got to do my damnedest to find a cure.
You're watching ronmikeRichards.com, either on the dedicated YouTube channel. We appreciate that. Subscribe when you can, or, of course, our website. And we are also putting up today the graphic as you're watching this, and it is World Purple Day. Text the word CURE to 30333 to donate either $10, $20, or $25 to Epilepsy Canada. Also, Russell, let's maybe find that graphic as well of Aiden's Drive, the golf tournament where we met everybody. It was at Hockley Valley, and it is a stunning location, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, it's just so beautiful, and the ownership group there has done a wonderful job. We had just the greatest day. I mean, the weather was perfect. They got a gorgeous pool. Sure, Russell was swimming naked in it. Sure, people were frowning upon that kind of action, but it was still a great day. We're going to broadcast live from there again. So it is July the 10th. July the 10th. So if you're watching this today and feel moved to do so, you can always contact me or Epilepsy Canada or Jay if you would like to sponsor a whole T-Box. If
Absolutely.
you'd like to just donate for the cause itself. If you
spend the afternoon with us, right?
Yeah. If you'd like to book a foursome, we're still doing that as well. And as we get closer, we're probably going to talk more about that, because it just is a marvelous day with some really wonderful, like, just amazing people. We had such a great time. And as I said, when you think about what Jay has gone through as a parent, you realize, as Gary was talking, that there are parents waking up today and if not finding something similar, at least the news that, either their child, wife, brother, son, I mean, their life is going to change from that moment on. And it becomes, I guess, a mission on, as they like to say now, the correct cocktail, the right balance of drugs. And, of course, a lot of it has to come with research, and you're not getting research if you're not coming up with money. So at the end of the day, this is why you do a show like this. This is why Dave and I become a part of it, because you realize if you want this thing to stop, then you got to get out the checkbook. It's the only way it's going to happen. And, people are working hard. They're doing their due diligence, but it's just so much to take in on what they got to do. I mean, you're talking about the human brain and that natural computer, and how do we alter medication, or you said so they actually, from the electrical impulses,
Right.
are thinking there's a way to somehow balance by getting a certain area of the brain, I suppose.
Yes, some of the scientists have said if we can detect when the early onset of a seizure is going to come, because it's electrical current, if we throw a different current at it, you can actually eradicate that, stop the seizure from happening. And a lot of research is taking place today in lots of places, but in Toronto, notably, one researcher is going down that path.
Some of the issues that, if you're epileptic, I saw this thing saying 10 things that epileptics know, and a lot of it is those triggering mechanisms, and some of them, you mentioned flashing lights. That connects to something in the brain that causes it triggers?
Yes, it's a trigger. There are lots. There's flashing lights. There could be actually some people with epilepsy can't go to a three-dimensional movie. The dimensions throw
With the equilibrium, I guess, to a degree, right?
Correct. And so there are a number of triggers, and each person has its own trigger. So once you know, you're very careful about where you go and what you do, and you have to manage your life differently.
Lack of sleep is also one.
Sleep is a huge one. Proper sleep, lots of sleep, eating properly, trying to stay fit. Those are all things that help. But sleep is a really, really important one. So most need to have 8 hours of solid sleep and more if they can.
What other things that people would, because maybe they're like you were, and so they might have gone years kind of hiding when certain things happen, but maybe it's a trigger mechanism that they're not aware that that's what it is. What else could they look for?
Well, the problem is I had a seizure and I didn't know it was a seizure.
Right.
So I thought I'd fainted. So I didn't feel the effects of it. I simply was on the floor looking at the carpet and knowing that I'm not supposed to be here. It wasn't a Saturday night, so
right
in the morning. And so you say, okay, something happened. So then you have to go. I didn't remember what happened. And then so the next time, the onset, I felt the same thing. So I had this dream. So it's important to report those things to your doctor, to be able to describe them, how you're feeling. And then it's also the after effect. So the after effect for me is that my body felt punished. And I then went to sleep for about 12 to 14 hours. So my body was exhausted. So that's not normal from someone fainting. So it's okay. So my body was really affected by this event. So it's checking with your physician, checking with your family, whoever you're with, and reporting to them what happened.
I was going to ask. So today, World Purple Day, is this when it says World Purple Day, this is going on worldwide right now, or is this mainly focused in our country, considering that, based on other charities, this is relatively small, and that's why we have to build this up to get it well noticed, and it's good that they're having a day like today on World Purple Day.
I think we need to do a shout out to Cassidy Megan from Nova Scotia.
Okay.
She was a young student, and she was epileptic, and she actually in 2008 on March 26th started Purple Day.
Oh, fantastic!
That's
okay,
incredible.
So there is a good.
Yeah.
It's a short history too.
A short history, and it was started by Cassidy Megan, and so she recognized it and put up Purple Day, and then the world has recognized it. The Canadian government, I think, in 2012, recognized the month of March. So now in Canada, March is Epilepsy Awareness Month, and then this day is dedicated through Cassidy's efforts in Nova Scotia as Purple Day, and now International World Purple Day.
As gentlemen, and not only you guys, but your families, now having to live through this and fundraise and talk to people like us, do you feel any sort of momentum gaining as far as more and more people are aware of it? Because you bring it up, and it wasn't too long ago that she came up with this date, and it wasn't too long ago that the government finally recognized March as the month. Do you feel any of the momentum? Is it building, considering where it was prior to?
Well, I think so. I mean, you can talk to Gary, but I'm a pretty vocal guy. He'll tell you right away. I get on all of the. I mean, and you guys see, I get on all the social media avenues, and I go out there and tell my story. And like I said before, prior to this happening, prior to me talking, I only knew one person my entire life in 38 years who had epilepsy, and since I've started talking, I know hundreds and hundreds of people, because
that's what I'm talking about.
People do keep
it
it inside because they don't want to talk about it for fear of their job or their license or being outed socially. But I want to bring awareness out to everybody. I want everybody to know about this so that we can continue to push forward and try and find that cure.
Well, sharing is the way to go. To be public about things that your gut might be telling you just keep it to yourself, blah blah blah. Well, if we all did that, we'd get nowhere. I mean, you really would get nowhere. So
Absolutely.
when you saw Brent Hundley's story, as we brought both Gary and Jay in, that was very moving about his sister. And again the social aspects of it. He talks in that at the beginning of that piece about how people would, other kids would laugh at his sister when it would happen. I mean, you can see it happening. It's a horrible thing, but by him sharing it, and of course John Ryan, the punter, he gave away those Seahawk cleats there.
Yeah.
It was like the $10,000 or whatever he got, or $20,000 or whatever they were looking for.
It was a couple $1,000 US, so we exchanged.
No,
that. It was
well,
great.
maybe in
US, so
Canadian
that's
it's
the
10,000
equivalent. Yeah, exactly.
But those are the kinds of things that need to be done, and I think the more that you're vocal and public about it, I mean, the better chance you have of filtering that money back again to research, because that's how it works.
And I got, again, to Jay's, we've started our campaign around 2010-11, and wanted to tell people stories. And one of the first that came forward was a young girl from Halliburton, Katie Woodstrup, and it resulted in us working with the Woodstrup family to create Katie's Run in Halliburton. And then from there, Jay came forward, so we wanted everyone to tell their story. So today we have other people that have come forward, and Leonard Allen recently just joined us in terms of fundraising event, and Leonard has now put together a team of 12 to 14 climbers. We're going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh, wow.
And Leonard's story was he lost his sister to SUDEP 25 years ago.
Wow.
And in December, I was with Leonard and his dad at the CAW Auxiliary Women's Meeting in Oshawa. And we were doing a presentation about raising money for Kim's Climb, which is the climb's called. And Ron spoke. Leonard's dad, Ron spoke, and he got all choked up. So this is 25 years after the death of his daughter, and still he was choked up about the memory of her passing. And and so proud that Leonard was coming forward to do this event. But Jay's event last year has really helped drive other events. Michelle's Gala in Gravenhurst. Again, Michelle's died of SUDEP 10 years ago, and her sister Caitlin wanted to do something, and so the Reed family has now put together a gala in Gravenhurst. And again, last year we raised $20,000 at Michelle's Gala. Fantastic event.
Yeah.
So these things are happening by grassroots, by people like Jay, people like Michelle, people like Leonard, Caitlin Reed, people who want to do something. And we're really excited about that.
Well, look, we're glad you guys came in today, because yes, it is close to our hearts, and we were always thinking about Jay and Aiden and just what they go through on a daily basis. And I think that's the one thing that anyone who's been a parent understands, that the emotional fatigue, how spiritually almost that it just sucks the life out of you, and there's a fear to it. I would think. I think but you've managed to. I can't say be fearless, but how would you describe your attitude towards what goes through your son?
Well, first and foremost, I don't think I've slept well in 2.5 years ever since he was diagnosed. Anytime there is a movement throughout the night, you just kind of spark up and you wonder, okay, is he having a seizure? He normally has them, throughout the night or first thing in the morning. And the unfortunate circumstance with Aiden is he's developmentally delayed, so he can't tell us that he's going to have a seizure. He doesn't know that this is something that is coming on. We think that he's starting to grasp it, but he's still not able to tell us. So we just continue to fight. We've had to make adjustments in our life. I put a lot of dedication towards this event, so it takes a little bit of time away from home. And I mean, I have a job on top of that, plus my family. So life is very, very busy, but we got to keep plugging away. We got to keep fighting. The adjustments that we've made, we were about to go on a family vacation on March break, and I was about to book the resort, and we had gotten to the point where we had been able to stop Aiden's grand mal seizures with a certain medication. A week before I was about to book the vacation, he had one and we couldn't stop it. So for the first time in many, many years, we had separate vacations just because I could not risk having my son 35,000 feet in the air, or in Mexico having a seizure that I can't stop. Yeah. So, you make these little adjustments, and maybe we'll get to that point. We experiment constantly with medication. It's probably not easy on his body, which is why we need to find that cure. We just have to keep on pushing forward.
So once again, you can help out today on World Purple Day by texting the word cure to 30333, so that's 30333, to donate either $10, $20, $25 to Epilepsy Canada, because it does help. Like, I mean, from that moment that you know that you're putting that money in there, it's going to research for a cure, or at least to further a comfort level, so people can have a relatively normal life, which obviously you can understand for Jay that right now that seems probably almost like a fantasy, does it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and it shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't, because we have the chance to do something, and it starts by just donating that money. So if you want to do that, and of course, as we mentioned beforehand, the golf tournament, which is a fun day at Hockley Valley, there's a winery there. I mean, what do you want?
I think there's a couple of them.
They have their own winery. It's owned by Italians. Come on, andiamo, scappa, let's go. They also have the beautiful pool, in which, nude Russell images of that's almost like Splash for some people when they saw that. No. Actually said no one ever. But we have a great day, and it's for a great cause. So if you want to do that, that's also the graphics up there. You can get a hold of Jay or myself. I know some people have tried to do that this year, and as we get closer to it, we'll have some more details. But if you want to book a foursome, we'd appreciate that. So once again, World Purple Day. Do what you can, because it is worth it, and you are changing people's lives. So, gentlemen, thanks so much for coming in, Jay. And there's Gary, who...
Thank you so much, as always. We really appreciate it, guys.
Seeing you guys once again.
Just wonderful. So, you know what? On that note, as much as people say, what do you mean? Yeah, that's what's happening, right? There we go. Yeah. Over.
What? This to the end.
Yeah.
We just become best friends? Yup. You want to go do karate in the garage? Yup.
Yes.
It's time!
We'd like to thank Jay Barker for coming in, talking, and sharing his story about Aiden's Drive. Gary Collins, the president of Epilepsy Canada. Do we thank Air Canada? No.
Yeah, of course.
Air Canada.
That's our favorite airline.
Something special in the air. No, I don't think we can use that one. I think that's somebody else's.
Let's get ready to rumble!
But again, two ways to help out. We mentioned texting the word cure to 30333 and donate $10, $20, $25. What do you have? Epilepsy Canada will be happy about it. And contact us if you want to go golfing in July with ourselves and for a great cause. Have yourself a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.